Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's completely revolutionizing cybersecurity: zero trust architecture. You've probably heard the term buzzing around, but what does it actually mean? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the old way of thinking about security is broken and why never trust, always verify is the future. So, let's start with a little story. Imagine your company's network is like a medieval castle. For decades, the security strategy was simple: build a huge wall, a deep moat, and a strong gate. This is what we call the perimeter model. Everything inside the walls, your computers, servers, and employees, was considered trusted. Everything outside was untracked. Once you got past the main gate, you were pretty much free to roam around. But what happens if a bad guy, say a spy, manages to sneak past the guards? Or even worse, what if one of your own trusted knights decides to go rogue? Once they're inside, they have access to almost everything. They can wander into the treasury, the armory, the royal chambers. You get the idea. This is the fundamental flaw of the perimeter model. In today's world, the insiders aren't just people in your office. They're remote workers, cloud services, and personal devices, all connecting to your network. The castle walls have become porous and practically meaningless. This is where zero trust comes in. It flips the entire model on its head. The core principle of zero trust is simple and radical. Trust nothing and no one by default. It doesn't matter if a request is coming from inside or outside the network. It assumes that threats can exist both outside and inside your castle. So, instead of one big wall, zero trust puts a guard and a locked door in front of every single room. To get into any room, you have to prove who you are and that you have permission to be there every single time. This concept is called never trust. Always verify. It doesn't grant access based on location, like being inside the network. It grants access based on identity and context. Who are you? What device are you using? Where are you connecting from? What are you trying to access? Only when all these checks are passed is access granted, and even then, it's only the minimum access needed to do a specific task. This is known as the principle of least privilege. Let's break down the core pillars of a zero trust framework. First, there's identity verification. This is all about confirming that users are who they say they are. It goes way beyond just a simple username and password. We're talking about multi-factor authentication, or MFA. You know when you log in and have to enter a code from your phone? That's MFA. It adds a crucial layer of security, making it much harder for an attacker with a stolen password to get in. The second pillar is device validation. Zero trust doesn't just verify the user. It verifies the device they're using. Is the device a company-managed laptop? Is its operating system up to date? Does it have antivirus software running? Is it free of malware? If a device doesn't meet these strict health checks, it might be denied access or given very limited access until the issues are fixed. This prevents compromised personal devices from becoming a gateway for attackers. Third, we have microsegmentation. This is the digital equivalent of putting a locked door on every room in our castle. Instead of having one big, flat network where everything can talk to everything else, microsegmentation breaks the network into tiny, isolated zones. If an attacker manages to breach one segment, they're trapped there. They can't move laterally across the network to access other sensitive data. It contains the damage and makes it incredibly difficult for attackers to reach their ultimate target. And the fourth key pillar is enforcing least privilege access. This means even if a user and their device are fully authenticated and verified, they only get access to the specific applications and data they absolutely need for their job. A marketing employee doesn't need access to the source code repository, and a software engineer doesn't need access to financial records. By strictly limiting access, you drastically reduce the potential impact of a compromised account. If an attacker gets control of a user's account, they can only access what that user could, which, under zero trust, isn't very much. So, how does this all work in practice? Let's walk through a real-world scenario. Imagine an employee, Sarah, wants to access a customer database from her personal laptop while working at a coffee shop. In the old perimeter model, she might connect to the company VPN. Once connected, her laptop is on the network and considered trusted. She could potentially access many different internal systems. Now, let's see how Zero Trust handles it. When Sarah tries to connect, the system first verifies her identity. She enters her password, and then she has to approve a notification on her phone. That's the multi-factor authentication. Next, the system inspects her laptop. It checks her OS version, firewall status, and runs a quick scan for malware. The coffee shop's public Wi-Fi is flagged as untrusted, so the connection is automatically encrypted. Since her identity and device check out, the system then looks at her request. She wants to access the customer database. The policy engine confirms that as a sales manager, she has permission to access that specific application. Access is granted, but only to that database. If she tries to access the engineering servers, her request will be instantly blocked because her role doesn't require it. Every single request she makes is logged and monitored for any unusual activity. You can see how much more secure this is. Every single access request is a checkpoint. We're not relying on a single point of failure like a firewall or a VPN. We're building security directly around our data and applications, no matter where they are. Implementing Zero Trust isn't a simple flip of a switch, of course. It's a journey, a strategic shift in mindset and technology. It involves identifying your most sensitive data, mapping out data flows, and gradually implementing these pillars across your organization. It starts with visibility. You can't protect what you can't see. So the first step is always to get a clear picture of all the users, devices, and applications on your network. But the benefits are massive. It dramatically reduces your attack surface. It limits the blast radius of any successful breach. And it provides a much better and more secure experience for a modern, mobile workforce. In a world of cloud computing, remote work, and sophisticated cyber attacks, the old castle land moat approach just doesn't cut it anymore. Zero trust isn't just a buzzword. It's a necessary evolution in how we approach security. It's about acknowledging the reality that we can no longer trust any connection, device, or user implicitly. We have to verify everything, every time. So, the next time you hear about a major data breach, ask yourself, could a zero-trust approach have prevented it? The answer is very likely yes. It's the framework that will define the next decade of cybersecurity. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this gave you a clear understanding of what Zero Trust architecture is and why it's so important. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Let me know in the comments what you think about Zero Trust. Is your organization using it? I'd love to hear from you. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.